Good evening, good morning, good whatever time it is you're listening to this. I hope you're having a good one. I'm going to be talking about the SPY and the data sets for March, or not March, it's April now, for April 1st. And with that said, let's jump straight into the data. If it will pull up. There we go. All right. Oh, it disappeared on me again. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have the manufacturing PMI tomorrow and the ISM manufacturing data. Also, the JOLTS job openings. All this data comes out pretty much right after market open. The primary PMI report. I don't know if this is a revision. I don't believe this is a revision. We do have a revision in here for some of these data sets though. Um, so this 9:45, it's 15 minutes after open. That should be a decent move for the market. I really don't know which way up or down. We'll see. And then we have all these other data sets, 30 minutes after the market. We do have the Atlanta Fed GDP. I'm not really anticipating too much from that, but if we do have like a major swing up or down in the data set, then obviously that's going to affect the market as well. Now, again, we don't have any earnings really this week, so I'm not going to discuss earnings. Just a quick reminder before we get into the technical analysis. If you've been finding value in my insights, consider joining my Patreon. For just $12.99 a month, you'll get access to my trades, courses, and powerful tools to help you grow as a trader. I'd love to have you be a part of our team and community. And it's less than 43 cents a day. So if you'd like to join, click in the link in the description. Thanks. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the technical analysis. And as always, we're going to go over the daily chart and go over the moving averages once I get this looking a little better. All right, apologize for that. All right, let's go ahead and go over the moving averages. So the 5 MA is currently at 565.24. The market closed at 559.39. Very wild day. We'll go into that in a second. But with that said, it's very, very, very likely we'll see the 5 MA around the 562.80 to 530 or to 564 or 563, I mean. So it's the 562.80 to the 563-ish range, give or take. Um, so that's finally pulling below our other supports. The other supports, so like the 10 MA is at 565.28. Uh, Technically it was right at where the 5 MA was today. So those two levels consolidated directly on top of each other. The 20 MA was at 565.05. So again, that's essentially right at these three levels. And um, with that market closing a little higher, even though the 5 MA is going to pull downward, um, it's a really good sign for consolidation to pull upward, but I'll show that in a second. Now, we do have a really important area, which is the lower Bollinger, and this is at 548.43. Now, we are below the 200 MA in general right now, so we are still technically in the bear market, and the 200 MA is almost exactly at the 570 or the 571. So right now it's at 570.94. So almost at that 571. So that's slowly pulling upward. That's a good thing. We want that longer range support or the longer term support to be pulling upward. And all of our short term supports needed to consolidate because we were kind of in a weird position. And let me just kind of open the screen so you can see it a little further. We had the 20 MA pulling down. It was pulling down, pulling down, pulling down. And it was still above the 10 MA, which basically the 5 MA is the short-term support, 10 MA is the medium term, then the 20 MA is the long term, even though granted I know the 20 MA isn't like a long-term support. But that's just how I categorize them, so just bear with me for a second. So we have our short-term support pulling back upwards, and pulling above the long-term support, while our medium-term support was under both of those levels still. Um, when you want your supports pulling upward or downward, you want the levels to be consistent. So you want, like, for going downward, you want the short-term support on the bottom, the middle, the medium in the middle, and then the long on top. Or if you're heading upward, you want it in the other direction. So you want the 20 mile on the bottom, you want the 10 mile in the middle, and you want the 5 mile pulling upward for a rally. Now, we were in that weird area where we were going to see the 10 mile pull way below support without the 20 mile pulling below support, and potentially we were going to have the 5 mile pull up again. Um, that's not really how these algorithms trade too much, and yeah, the supports right now just needed to consolidate a little bit further, and that's what we're seeing right now. And just finishing going over the daily chart really quick, the ADL, which is, essentially the money inflow and outflow, saw a pretty big spike today. Now, again, I've been talking about this for the last few weeks now, but if I could draw a channel right here, I would. But there's essentially this nice channel going right here where the last few sessions, we've been kind of bouncing in and out of that channel. Now, we're not completely out of it. We're basically right at the tip of that tippy top of that channel. Another strong session will pull that upward, but what we have to be careful for is, again, we have this really, really, really large gap at the 536, and that's just the level you have to be aware of right now. 536. I'm going to draw this out for a moment. Okay, this liquidity zone pulls downward to that. Okay, so this 536 is on this first orange line, and it's at the bottom of this really large cup. And I showed this in the video yesterday, but essentially we have this really huge cup going all the way down to that 536 if the dealers are going to continue bringing us downward. Now, is it likely they are going to? Yes, it is, because we have an inverse cup right here that formed, and it pulled down almost exactly to the T. That first cup top, because again, this is at the you have to flip this cup upside down, so the bottom of the cup is the top here. Now, the bottom, or the cup top here, was originally at 548. This second cup top, the completed cup top, overextended, which that's generally something you want to see. And we started building a bullish structure in here. Okay, and I know I'm not circling the area exactly, but you get the point. We're building a bullish structure in here. So, uh, what that suggests is that this inverse cup is going to now build a handle upward. I don't know how far upward it's going to build. I wish this inverse cup would not look the way it is and actually be in the correct spot, but it's just not going to work how I want it to be. So let me delete that. I'm going to redraw it really quick. So the inverse cup's kind of right there. Okay. Of course, it's not going to pull down all the way. Anyway, difficult program. So I'm going to make it look janky just for a second, just so that we can all be on the same page. Okay, so we have this inverse cup. We're now in this area building a bullish structure, pulling back upwards to finish out that handle. Now what we need to look for, now that we are kind of building that back upward, is we need to look for this. Hold on, I just want to delete this circle right here because it looks terrible. And I want to put that there. Okay, so once we start heading back upward, we're going to start looking in this area for a bearish structure. So like a head and shoulders. This isn't going to work with that. I probably have to draw this on a smaller time frame. So what I'm really looking for is like a head and shoulders starting to form in here. And potentially we see this a lot lower than where I'm drawing it. I'll drag these to a different area in 1 second. It's very likely. Why are these things always such a pain? Okay, my program does not want to work with me. So, I am just going to have to work with it. Okay, so head and shoulders. We have this liquidity zone right here. We should expect if there's going to be, the top to this head and shoulders, if we're going to form a shoulder here and form a head, then that area right there is extremely, extremely strong for that. So just be aware of that. I don't think we're going to form that over the next, 1 to 2 sessions. As you can see, this has been, a buildup of, weeks and weeks and weeks. So don't try to rush this. Um, with that said, though, I am going to probably end the video here. I have kind of laid out the bear thesis and bull thesis, which both kind of align right now. We both want upward because we want liquidity to head back downward. Now, the bulls want the bears to fail this. So, for example, the bears would want to have this, pull downward, where the bulls want this to break out. Okay. Um, that's essentially the spot we're in right now. So until this continues to build structure here, we just need to be patient. I really don't suggest taking like crazy long options here. I did take some end of May calls today. Now, the whole goal of that is to, one, test the top of this area. Okay, so that's kind of like my first target. So, you know, there, I actually got it like pretty much near open. Um, so that's kind of my first target. And then my second target would be, to the top of that cup. Okay. Um, assuming that lands, that's going to be essentially like a $25 move. So, um, that's the plan for that. I'm not keeping my hopes up too much right now. Uh, but I do have some calls. Just don't go too heavy on options right now, especially like short dated stuff. This yellow box right here is a chop zone, and you can see these sessions right here. It's like very large movement, but it's not going anywhere. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Um, yeah, expect a lot of that right now. This broker is driving me crazy right now. Okay, yeah. Laid out the bullish thesis, laid out the bearish thesis. We should be good. I'm going to go ahead and call the video here. Yeah, I'm going to call the video here. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good day. Trade safe. Don't be playing silly, short-dated stuff unless you're just scalping. This is super good to scalp. Really, really good money. But don't be holding like, um, swinging options and stuff like that. This is time for leap leap calls, um, leap puts, leap straddles, leap strangles, uh, butterflies. Butterflies work really good here. Selling contracts because the IV is really high. So if you have calls or if you have shares, then you should be trying to sell contracts here and there on some of those shares to pull in premiums. You should be loading up equities when we're getting these lows. So for example, Soxel. And I know some are not too happy with their purchase, but they will be in time. If I can find the ticker. Da, 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 da. So Soxel, let's just look at the daily chart. Um, this is just over the period of a few months. It's gone from, the upper 30s down to today it was at 14 something. I ended up buying some shares at 14 like 80. Uh, so there's a lot of room upward, but we do have to be careful because looking at this, assuming this is some large inverse cup or head and shoulders, there's a really large gap right here at the 1382. Now, very likely we're not done with that gap. Very likely we're going to see this continue pushing a little further. And the reason why I mentioned Soxel is because it's the bullish semiconductor ETF, and it's actually really important. I'm gonna just quickly touch on it. Um, you can short this and short almost the entire international market for semiconductors and tech. And the reason why is because SOX and SOXL and everything is loaded with ASML, AMAT, like a lot of these foreign super heavy techs and semiconductors. Um, so by shorting Soxel, you can hit everything all at once, and that's kind of what the shorts have been doing. You can see it in the charts right here. Um, this thing has been absolutely getting hammered, and by doing this, you can have a leverage short of, the whole major market. So just keep your eyes on that. But I have been buying shares. This is an extremely good buy zone. As I stated, there's a lot of room upward. And even though it doesn't look like it right now, a lot of this room eventually will get filled back upward. It may not happen obviously over, weeks, months, might take a year, but there is a lot of room upward. So, with that said, I'm gonna end the video here for real. Have a good night, have a good day, trade safe, and let's win.